Let's talk about public libraries.
Okay.
I know we're doing this in the school system. What's going on with the public libraries in these schools?
Well, public libraries, thankfully, are public, and they are up to the parents' discretion. In Manatee County, I think one of the most shocking things is the public library disassociated. I'm not sure if you don't have a child in the schools, children's ID numbers are actually their library cards to the public library. That has been severed without asking the school board and without asking the school district. So if your child goes to check out a book on George Washington, if it's an adult biography, they're not able to check it out unless you physically go to the library and fill out a form. So children no longer have full access to the public library. Recently, the governor came out and said we are disassociating all links to the American Library Association. The ALA's current president had some unfortunate comments that were made on social media. Just for reference, I'm coming back to the governor and asking when there's a new president of ALA, which happens in June, are we going to change that stance? Because what happened is it trickled down. When the governor said that, then Manatee County started saying that they needed to disassociate from the ALA. So did other counties around the state.
Because she was leftist.
She was leftist, and I think there were socialism and Marxist statements in there.
Okay, give up your Social Security, then you're not socialist. Give up your Medicare, then you're not socialist. I hate hypocrites. If you're willing to give that all up, then you can take that stance.
That's not socialism. We paid for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you heard that too?
Yes, I've heard that too.
Oh my God, are people stupid? I tell you. Sorry, I hate to say, there are morons and stupid people. And we're getting stupid. I don't know. Maybe I'm the guy. I don't
You know what we need to do? We need to read more books.
Yeah. Well, education.
And the thing about the ALA, number one, we receive discounts. When you're a member of the ALA, you receive discounts on materials that the library receives. But also our librarians receive support and professional development. It's one of the few organizations that public librarians can receive quality professional development. But the issue is our joining forces and joining together. When librarians talk to each other, we might figure things out. We might actually have support among ourselves and have power among ourselves so that we know how to handle issues and information. Like we could have seen with more support at the national level, we could have seen what's happening in our counties now. We could have seen it probably 2-3 years before the laws were being written in Tallahassee. But honestly, for anyone who has any doubt about our public libraries, especially in Manatee County, go to them. Say, I'd like to speak to the librarian, introduce yourself. Some of our librarians are being targeted at the public library. They're actually being called out as being groomers or sexualizing children. It's not what librarians do. It's not who they are. It's just not in our vocabulary. We are there to provide support and information. We are the information queens and kings. And that's really, we seek to help people in whatever form they need.
I think indifference by people, by librarians, by the public, is what's going to bring our downfall. We all have a responsibility to be active and change and make our community better. Democracy is always under attack. I think we're a very unique nation. We're not. My wife said, she's from Colombia. She said when I said Hillary Clinton got 3 million votes more than Donald Trump, and she's not president. She looked at me. I said, well, she's not president. Well, I thought you were a democracy. You're not a democracy if you get more votes than you're not. I said the system is skewed that way for, anyway. We're almost a democracy.
We're almost. Try explaining that to the Electoral College.
We're still trying to get there, but it requires hard work. It requires education. It requires us to always be fighting against the darkness of the right. I don't want to. There's good conservatives, don't get me wrong.
What I like to remember is in 1776, with all that was wrong with our country in 1776, and you've heard that term over and over again, we all want to go back to 1776, when I had no rights, when I was chattel.
Yeah.
But
that is correct, because was it 51 times in the Constitution, his, him, nothing about a woman?
But at the same time, our founding fathers wanted a literate electorate, and that is when the public school system started. And the whole purpose, the whole movement of becoming a country was not to have a king and a queen, to not have an elite. They wanted everyone to be a part of the system. And Benjamin Franklin started our first library so that everyone could be literate and everyone could have access to the most expensive materials on the world at the time, which were books. And that's why we have libraries, is to democratize. And I'm sorry, I don't care how you vote. red, blue, purple. If you stay home, please don't stay home. But
Well, stay home if you're not educated.
But if you don't believe one person, one vote, what country are we? We are not the United States of America.
We're
if you
Putin.
don't, exactly,
Putin's Russia.
Exactly. So if you do not believe every single person 18 years or older has the same right to vote as you do, and you don't believe that the person with the most votes should walk away, then what are we doing here?
Let's talk about some of the books.
Okay.
What have been banned and define ban, because I've heard people say we don't ban anybody.
We don't ban any books.
Yeah, what does banning mean?
Banning is when you reduce access to the books. And so if books have been pulled off of school shelves, you have banned a book. So even though it is available in a grocery store, a library, a public library, or a bookstore, and you can go buy it, some people do not have money. Some people do not have gas money to get there. And that is why these books should be accessible to all children. I think it's ludicrous of the titles, some of the titles that you see here. But
So talk to me.
right.
I mean, like the Penguin. What are we talking
the
about?
Penguin books, actually, Antanko Makes 3 is pretty old. It's from the 90s, and it's a true story from the New York Zoo. The New York City Zoo had 2 male penguins who...
We became friendly.
No, two male penguins took care of a chick that had been orphaned. So the mama had died, and so the zookeepers.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not. It's a true story.
You're kidding me. This is what they're banning because 2 males took care of one.
Well, and also nothing in this book. If you read this to a 6, 7, 8-year-old child, it's 2 penguins that take care of another penguin. Is it labeled LGBTQ? Yes, it has in the ISBN information and the Library of Congress information, homosexuality and.
But where
LGBTQ.
does that come from? Because there's 2 males that take care of a chick?
It's because
That's
2 males. It does show that they're friendly. Like they stay in the same hut, they swim together, they eat their meals together. So
It's not sexual.
It's not. Well, no, male penguins don't have sex with each other. But it is banned because it's 2 male penguins that are living in the same zoo and taking care of a chick. So that's Antango Makes 3.
And a child is that sophisticated to know that, oh my word.
But also, this is the case I referred to in Lake County. This was the book that Lake County went to
I wonder
court
what Bridget
over.
Ziegler thinks about that. She must.
My favorite sign at a protest at the Sarasota School Board meeting is someone showed up with a sign that says, "I may be gay, but you're a hypocrite." So,
welcome to America, huh?
This is
Bunch
true.
of hypocrites. And
this I actually put in the face of a Tallahassee lawmaker because he was on the book ban. He actually was responsible for the bill that you named, 1069 and I believe it was 1557. He helped to write them. And this was one of the first books that was pulled. This is a book about kindness and being yourself, being who God made you to be. It's the story of a red crayon who actually colors blue. And he's trying to fit in with the other crayons.
You are joking.
I'm not joking.
They banned this book.
They have banned this book in the state of Florida. And
God
I took
forbid.
this to Tallahassee with me, and I said, it is about a crayon. I did. It is about a crayon. It's a children's book.
You are kidding. These morons are doing this?
But let me tell you.
I'm sorry.
But let me tell you.
Oh, my God.
This is called a grooming book because they do not believe God made LGBTQ people.
They're fools.
They believe
you
somebody.
can pray it out of them?
They believe that somebody read so many books to them that they turned gay. And this is one of those books. Because being yourself and being a full, whole person as God created you.
That's a brilliant book. I'm a red crayon, but I color blue. I love
about
that.
kindness.
I should have thought of that.
It's about kindness and respect for each other and for the individual to be the full person that you are.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not
These are
kidding you.
fools. The people who are doing the banning, have they read the books? Do they know what they're talking about?
No, they have not.
They cannot have read
They are
them.
taking phrases, and if you look at the challenges across the state of Florida, they are phrases that have been put up on Book Looks, which is a right-wing propaganda piece put out by Moms for Liberty. We call it the hit list because as soon as a book goes up on their website on booklooks.org, and we were told as librarians we should use that to vet the books. That's not a reliable source. In my business, we call that fake news.
In the United States of America, nothing happens without money. They have to be there for money.
They raised $2 million in their first month.
Oh, there you go.
They put $2 million in their coffers.
I'm against red crayons coloring blue, and I need $2 million. This is brilliant. I should be a pastor as well.
Now,
go ahead. What's this one?
This joyful book book banning came to us from a man who got tired of the lockdowns in New York, and he moved to where? Florida. So he comes to Florida and he files 300 challenges. This book is an incredible book about a young man who, and he doesn't have a face because he suffers from facial dysmorphia. He is born where they have to do multiple surgeries. And this book was the first book of the author. It also was made into a movie. It's a major motion picture with Owen Wilson and Julia Roberts play the parents. But it's about bullying in middle school. It's made for grades 4 through 8, so it's middle grade fiction, and it's basically about how to be a friend, how to stand up for each other, and to stand up against bullies.
Okay, what was the problem?
But he said it has to be a conspiracy because there are more copies of this book in the libraries than The Cat in the Hat. The reason is this book is less than 10 years old. The Cat in the Hat is more than 40 years old. So more kids are reading this book than The Cat in the Hat. So the libraries have more.
That's the reason? No.
But, well, what he put down on the challenge form is that there's violence because the kid socks a bully in the face. So it's violent. We can't have this book on the shelf.
Hell, I tell my kids if they get bullied, go beat the heck out of that other guy. Come on. I mean, don't you? I mean, what kind of a kid is not going to defend himself?
If you want an excellent book for your children in those grades, that is a phenomenal book.
I promise you, as God is my witness, if there is such a thing, I will buy that from the kids that in my household. I swear, because that's a beautiful story, and I love the crayon. Listen, I love the crayon book, man. Yeah, because that's what I like that commercial. Draw outside the lines. Be who you are.
Yes.
Gosh, that's inspirational.
Yes, that's what we're supposed to do,
yeah,
isn't it?
Be the red crayon that colors blue. I love that. Is genius. So go ahead. Well, right. Slaughterhouse 5. I know Henry has a thing for Henry, what's your thing for Slaughterhouse 5? What's about?
I just made the point that my 7th grade teacher, which was a long, long time ago, 1969-ish.
And you remember the book?
That was something I did a book report on. And it was okay to read that. In fact...
But what was it about? What do you remember?
I remember the protagonist was actually taken... He was in Dresden, so it was interspersed with scenes from Dresden and the firebombing of Dresden. So it was anti-war and probably fit in the whole anti-Vietnam War. But it was also science fiction, too, and that he was taken by aliens and put on exhibit for a while. And it was, for me in 7th grade, it was a little tough to follow, but eventually it came together for me.
About? What's that? The centipede thing? Or what were you talking about?
The aliens can see another dimension. Right. And where we see 3 dimensions, they see time also. And so they can see, for example, you as little baby CJ, and they can also see you as old man CJ, and everything in between. Your state of being is like a long centipede, just legs from the little baby CJ to old man CJ. And, you're probably more towards one end than the other. And you try and live most of your consciousness in the best parts of your life.
Okay, so and what do you get from that book? What do you remember? Do you remember? I'm just curious because you read that in 7th grade.
I thought that was a pretty interesting way to think about your life, and actually, I'm not sophisticated in the theory, but I know that string theory and a lot of the theories about physics now, he wasn't too far off about stuff.
What do you think?
That's true. That's true. Well, Slaughterhouse 5 is a classic. And we don't usually say that these days because classics were chosen by old white men. But Slaughterhouse 5 is it's one of those books that we are all required to read in high school and college. Is it tough? Yes. Are there tough subjects? Yes. The anti-war theme means anti-government, right? You're like people protesting the war were anti-government, so that meant that they weren't part of that. But I mean, and it has violence and sexual content. Would you give it to an 11-year-old? No. Would you give a 7th grade? Yes. And that's the other thing. He read it in 7th grade, whereas some school districts in the state of Florida have put this at high school only. But yet it's readable and relatable in 7th and 8th grade. And that's the other thing we've talked about children is infantilizing children and saying they can't handle things when yet their world is so huge.
I was a very precocious 7th grader.
So we have movies, violent, Marvel movies,
yes.
Death, destruction, sex. They all watch it. The kids are there. We have video. We have access to all this, but we can't have a book. How about The Flamer or I Am Jazz?
Flamer, I think you guys have heard the discussions of Beloved. I still believe Beloved
Okay.
is challenged because it is people of color. I mean, there is sexual content in it, but I believe it's targeted because it's Toni Morrison and being a person of color. If you look at the list of what has been challenged, and PEN America is the best source for that. They have every book that's been pulled off shelves in America. The majority of them are minority authors or minority characters or LGBTQ. It's completely obvious. Flamer is a book I will go to my death defending. I Am Jazz is in my library. It actually is the story of a trans girl. It's the author's autobiography. She actually had a TV show. It's nothing explicit. It's a read aloud and just talks about her journey as a child and how when she was a little boy, she chose dresses and dress up, and she knew from when she was teeny tiny, when she was 3 and 4 years old, she always
I have one of my
associated with
best
girls.
friends' brother had a little boy that I met when he was this
Teeny
tall.
tiny.
Was a girl. You knew she was a girl. You knew she was a girl. She played with girls. She was a girl. Today she's at Berkeley, and she's a woman. She came on my boat. We went, and just an amazing woman. I mean, you would look at her. She's a woman. She acts like a woman. She thinks like a woman. She's a woman, and she started out as a little boy. Anybody that has a problem with that is a sicko.
Well,
I want to interject something because this hits pretty close to home. I have a good friend, and his oldest daughter, who was about middle school age, just about to go in, said she wasn't sure of her gender. And you know, not talking about puberty blockers, not talking about any kind of interventional stuff, but she just asked, can you just call me by my name rather than she or he? Because I'm not sure. And that was, they tried to help her through this, and they went along with that. But wasn't there a law, I think it actually has passed in Florida, hasn't it, where someone outside the family can bring a complaint against them, and it isn't even a civil suit too, if the parent seeks treatment for their gender dysphoria for their child, and an unrelated person says, oh, this child is at risk. Can you speak to that?
Right now in the state of Florida, as a teacher and especially it's on guidance counselors, we cannot refer to children as we have to refer to them as their biological pronoun and name. Parents across the state of Florida, if they had a child named James, they had to sign a form saying, call him Jim or Jimmy. That's how outrageous it is.
I love Christian concepts. I met a preacher the other day that I think embodied what I consider good Christian values. And we didn't talk exactly about this, but we talked a little bit. And I think people of love and faith would accept everybody. Anything else, you're evil.
So many families and children have left the state for that reason. They can't receive the health care that they need.
That is a great point. And I think that we're a big country. And I know I was talking about this child, but she's raised where? You know, out in the left coast, if you will. And sometimes some families are going to have to move from the repressive South to places where they have educated people.
I don't blame it at all. You have to do what you do for your children.
No, absolutely.
The Hate You Give is one of my favorites. I hug it every time I pick it up and take it to a protest. This book was not one that I read when it first came out. It's the first novel of Angie Thomas, which is incredible. This book and Palacio's book, The Wonder Book, to be a first novel, it's incredible. It almost mirrors exactly a police shooting in Minneapolis, even to the torching of the neighborhood. But it was written about 2 years before that. But it's police shooting a young black man, an unarmed black man, and this was banned in Manatee County because it said it was anti-police. But there is a character in the book, her uncle. Well, her uncle is a police officer, and his character is there for the specific reason to say police officer. The uncle explains to her the pressure of being a police officer, the perspective of a police officer when they pull someone over, and if someone doesn't comply. That is all in the book. But why did they ban it? They didn't read the book.
Hey,
They couldn't have read the book.
I was going to say that anybody that wants to ban a book, please read the darn thing.
But
And we should all read them, actually, shouldn't we?
But
All of these.
But a black child who believes that police are out to get them, which anywhere in the United States of America where you have to have the talk, we have a problem. When I think about the talk, parents of black children should never have to do that. And this book could also show that to that child, police officers are human, and the police officers who have been killed because of that hate, that's also in this book. I don't support any police officer shooting an unarmed black man, but if we're going to talk about lives, let's talk about books saving lives in any hate form on one side of the issue or,
this
or the other.
goes beyond just blacks because, actually in Minnesota, I have a practice there. We've got police officers fired for racially profiling and attacking Latinos and the immigrant community. The people lived, I remember the people said, we live in terror. I remember that like it was yesterday. I was at a church and we were talking to the immigrant community. We live in terror. We may not come home tonight and we'll leave our children. And this is in the United States of America. And they're the same people that are doing this are the same people that believe that human beings are not legal, which they are. And it's not even a crime, by the way, but that's another topic. But we need to stand up for democracy and the rights to educate ourselves.
And no one should live in terror in the United States of America.
The Flamer.
Flamer speaks to my Christian background, and the boy is raised as an evangelical Christian. He's a Boy Scout,
right?
And my father and brother are both Eagle Scouts. So
that's why the finger's like that, right?
That's the pledge. I once knew the Boy Scout law, even though I'm a Girl Scout. But Mike Corrado, this is his life story. He actually was at a Boy Scout camp, was being bullied when he had a dream that he kissed a boy. So he wakes up going, "Oh dear God, I'm going to hell. My family's going to hate me. Everyone will desert me." So he decides to take his scout knife to the chapel at the Boy Scout camp to kill himself. Now, they think it's called Flamer because he's gay, and that is a term that some use for gay men and gay people. It is called Flamer because he has a spirit who visits him at the church. He has an angel that comes down. Now, it is my Catholicism that sees it as an angel because he's also crazy about comic books. So it kind of looks like one of the comic book characters that's coming as his spirit. But Catholics know when you see a flame above your head, whether it's saints or icons or pictures, that is the Holy Spirit. And that is this is a graphic novel, and it's one of the last pictures, not in the book because it goes on beyond the chapel scene, but the last picture of the chapel scene is the knife is out of his hand and he has a flame above his head, and that's why it's called Flamer. I will go to bat for this book for any child. This needs to be in middle school libraries because we have kids who consider killing themselves because their families tell them they are not okay. And the spirit that talks to him says, if your family leaves you, if all of your friends leave you, I'm still here and you've got me.
Amazing.
It's an amazing book.
I would think that the middle school in particular is one of the times in your life where everything's changing and you're not sure who you are and you're not sure where you're supposed to be and you have problems with weight, with your gender, you're being loved, you're being attacked, you're being bullied, and you need answers to your questions. And oftentimes parents, they just be quiet. They won't tell you. They won't tell you about sex. That's why you have teenage pregnancies and problems because they don't know that children aren't born with an instruction book, are they? And some of the worst people to guide, I hate to say it, are parents because they were also taught incorrectly. But we need this education. We need the books. We need a place where people can go to think.
And how many conversations do those books start, whether it's any other trusted adult? If they can't speak to their parents, they can speak to a librarian, a teacher.
You have enlightened me like no other way. And I'm not the strongest person of faith, but I think God has a plan for you, and you're here, and you're standing out, and you're a prophet. You're here. You're very rare, and you have a mission to save our nation and to save our children. And God bless you. You're a wonderful human being. Thank you. You're amazing.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.